Hi there, Natalie with you today with a new process video and project for Pinkfresh Studio. And today I actually want to use a layout that uses some of the newest stamps and hard foil plates from the latest release. So I'm using the Beautiful Blooms stamp, stencil, and die set. And I'm also going to use the script words hard foil and die set. So I'm starting with the flowers. I am going to use detail black ink to create the outline of the flowers on white cardstock. I'm going to say that I stamped around 5 different sets of them. And this comes in 2 separate stamps. So you're able to align them so that it fits in a sheet of paper. So you're going to see that I'm going to do 5, and I'm using my stamp platform just so that I can create them in mass production. Once I have them in place, I'm actually going to start using the layering and stencil to add color onto these flowers. And this is actually super simple, a super simple way to add color onto quite a bit of flowers. Again, think of it as mass production. This is the way to go. So all I'm doing is I'm lining up my stencil so it matches the flowers. And I'm starting with stencil 1, and that's the one that's going to color your flower. And I'm going to use tones of pink, coral, peach, and lilac for my flowers. I'm starting with ballet slipper, and all I'm doing is just picking some of the ink with my ink blending brush. Then I'm going to go on top of the stencil. I'm just going to go in a circular motion on top of the stencil, and that's going to create, it's just going to make the ink deposit in the little spaces or in the little wells of the stencil, and that's just going to add color onto your image. So very simple. Like I said again, I'm just dabbing my ink blending brush on top of my ink pad, and then I'm going a circular motion on the stencil. That's just going to add color. I'm just going to be honest, I just wanted to color the flowers, so I didn't add any extra detailed on them. I just wanted to color them. And think of it, like I said, if you're a scrapbooker, then this is a great way to create embellishments for your layout, because on one single stamping you already have 6 sets of flowers. So it's actually very good. And remember, I created 5 different sets, and I want to use different colors for this. So what I'm going to do in between changing colors is I'm actually going to wipe up my stencil so that when I go into the next color, I don't have that cross contamination. So you're going to see that once I finish with ballet slipper, I'm bringing a little bit of coral reef. This is going to give me that corally kind of reddish tone that I'm looking for. Same idea, I'm just dabbing my ink on the ink pad on a circular motion on top of the stencil, and that's going to color the flowers. Now, once I have all my flowers colored, I'm going to go into stencil number 2. That's just the one that's going to add extra detail onto the flowers. For this, I'm going to show you on the pink, I am using Sparkling Rose, which is the second color in the set, just to create, think of it, I'm just adding the centers of the flowers, just adding some extra petals, creating that dimension in a very simple way. Once I have that, remember, like I said, because I stamped my images without following a pattern, all I have to do is just move the stencil, make sure that it matches the flower at the bottom, and then I can add my ink. Once I have all the colors ready, I'm actually gonna go in the stencil number 3, and the stencil number 3 actually adds the definition onto the centers of the flowers and also to the leaves. So you're gonna see that I'm actually gonna pull fresh pear and mint. I'm gonna use fresh pears for the oranges and the corals, and then I'm gonna use mint for the pinks and the lilacs. I just wanted a little bit of difference that way. And I'm actually picking some of the ink, in this case fresh pear, with my ink blending brush. I'm going to go on top of the stencil, and all I'm doing is coloring the leaves. Very simple as that. You're going to see that once I finish the top row of flowers, I'm actually going to kind of shift my stencil so that it matches the bottom. It's very simple because the centers of the flowers are going to give you the precise location. And then I'm going to color the centers of my daisies. For that, I am using Sweet Master ink. Again, I'm just dabbing my brush, going on a circular motion, but I love this color. Yellow is the perfect tone, you know, that earthy, nice tone of it. And then I'm just going to continue inking my leaves. And I'm going to do that like throughout my 5 pages. Like I said, I use fresh pear for the orange and the corals, and mint for the pinks and the lilacs. So once I have everything colored, I'm going to go back into the last stencil, and that's stencil number 4. And the stencil number 4 is the same as we did with the flowers. It's just going to add an extra definition, an extra layer of detail onto the leaves. Very simple. So I'm using a darker color of green, so just following the color families. In this case, for fresh pear, I am using garden gnome, and for the mint one, the next color is meadow. So very simple. You're gonna see that it just brings some definition to the centers of the leaves. And once I have all of them done, I am actually gonna let them on the side for a little bit so they dry, and then I'm gonna come in with the die set. This is the Beautiful Blooms die set, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and cut all my flowers. Again, the die set comes in 2 sets, so that means that you can die cut your 3 sets that came together in the stamp in the same way with the die. So I'm just gonna put them in my large die cutting machine so I can cut all of them at once. So once I have all that cut, I'm gonna start working with the script words. This is the hot foil plate and also the die set. I want to use some of these words to create my title and the sentiment. So I'm going to use the words "you are amazing" and "you are the best" and the word "hey." So first thing I did, as I'm using my Glimmer hot foil system, I just let it warm up. I'm going to put my hot foil plate on top. I am using Aura foil because I like that goldish kind of rainbow look of it. And then I'm using hammer mill white cardstock cover stock to actually create my foil, in this case words. And then once I have it, I'm going to show you, very simple. And then I'm going to take off all the words, and I'm going to put my hot foil plate because I don't want to waste the negative piece of the foil. I actually want to use the leftover foil to create the inverse of what I just created. So I want to have the words in white and have the foil all around it. So I'm just going to let my hot foil plate warm there, and I'm going to go ahead and die cut the words that I just created with the die set. And this is very simple. In case you just got a hot foil machine and you're new to it, make sure you check Pinkfresh Studio. Leah and Heather had 2 sessions showing you how the machine works with Pinkfresh Studio hot foil plates and also the hot foil plate, the solid hot foil plate. So make sure you check them out. They're here in the YouTube channel. So you're gonna see that once I have that, I'm just doing the same with the hot foil plate, and you're gonna see right now I have the negative. That means that the words are now in white and everything around that is foil. Once again, I'm gonna use the coordinating die to cut the words out. So now that I have all my pieces ready, it's all about going into kind of assembling the layout. So I wanna create a center column with pattern paper, but I wanna have the pictures, in this case, sitting on the bottom right corner of this piece of paper, and then I want to have like the title on the top left. So what I'm going to do, just to break some of the whiteness behind it, add a little bit of color so that whatever I put on top of it just going to pop. I'm going to add a little bit of watercolor. I am using foundation paper from Vicky Boutin for the background. This is really heavy cardstock, so it's going to withstand the watercolor, but you're going to see that I'm not using a lot of water. I'm just going very careful. I just added a little bit of watercolor onto my palette, added some water to dilute it, and I'm just using my brush. You can use actually the packaging technique or the kissing technique. You can use inks for this, whatever you have at hand. I just happen to have liquid watercolor, and I'm going for like something kind of a teal look, teal kind of bluish tone, just because I don't have those tones in the flower. So I want to make sure something that contrasts the page. And you're going to see that I'm not covering the entire page. I'm just being very specific of where I place my watercolor. Like I said, bottom right corner of my layout, top left corner of my layout. Because I already know that I have a 6.5 inch piece of pattern paper that's going to sit right in the middle of the page. So once I have the watercolor done, I'm actually going to add a few drops of gold metallic ink just to bring some of that shine onto the page. And then I'm going to set it aside to dry before I continue on to assembling my page. So you're gonna see I have my paper that's gonna serve as an anchor, but I need something that is gonna help me create the movement of the page. So I went and I pulled these are the folk edge circle die set, and I'm actually gonna use the 6x6 paper pad from the Happy Blooms collection, and I'm gonna cut 4 circles. Think of it as creating an S of circles on the layout. So I'm gonna pick tones that are kind of within the yellows and the oranges, not the oranges, sorry, the corals and the pinks, because those are the tones that I have in the background. I don't want something that is totally different. I just want something that is going to add a little bit of interest. So you're going to see that right now. I'm just going to play with the images right now, with my pictures and also some of the circles, just to have them all in place. Once I have them, I'm going to go ahead and secure them onto the page. A little bit of double adhesive tape is going to make sure that they are in place. Once I have that in place, it's all going to be about adding all those florals that I created. And I'm not going to add all of them, but I am going to add quite a few of them. So you're going to see that I've pulled a bit of foam adhesive. You see it on the side there. And my idea is I want to create kind of an S shape with the flowers. So I'm starting on the bottom right corner of my layout. And that's, on the bottom, the smaller photo. I want to create, I'm just going to add some of the flowers. Like I said, I'm trying to follow the curvature of the folk circle die cut that I have there and kind of elongated it. You're going to see that the watercolor that I have on the back, quite a bit of it's going to be covered, but you just see the hint, the pop of the colors underneath, and that's all that I wanted. So once I have the flowers in place, that's when I'm going to come in with a little bit of foam adhesive just to secure it. At the same time, that's going to create levels. Think of it as adding dimension. You're going to add that super nice shadow when you see on layouts, that it makes it really realistic. It makes it a lot of fun too. So I'm just going, like I said, think of it as creating an S. Think of it as like the flow that I'm creating with those with the full circle die cuts. I want to add the same movement with my flowers. So then I'm going to add a few more of the little, the beautiful bloom die cuts coming from in between the pictures heading down. And then at the same time, I'm making sure that I mix some of the colors. That's what I created, like 5 different tones of flowers so that I can have those tones going. Now that I have, I'm kind of happy what the bottom looks like, I'm going to work on, this is going to be, think of it as my subtitle. And I'm going to use the word "you are the best." What I'm going to do is at the first part, the one that I foiled, the white cardstock foil with Aura, I'm actually going to glue it on top of the one that I used the solid hot foil plate. And that's just going to create an offset. I think I'm creating a shadow, like shimmery on the background. And I'm going to add a little bit of foam adhesive to attach it right at the bottom of my layout. Then from the top, I'm going to do the same with the word "hey." But for my title, which is "You Are Amazing," I am not actually going to add the white cardstock on top. I'm going to leave it as the foiled piece because I want it to be different than the rest of the page. Once I have that, I'm going to add some foam adhesive, and the word "hey, you are amazing" are going to go on the top left corner of my layout on those 2 circles that I placed there. But again, I have to follow the idea of bringing some of those flowers just to create that movement. And once again, I'm just going to play with all the die cuts. I'm just literally playing. I'm not attaching them. I'm just moving them around until I'm happy what it looks like. And then I'm going to add a little bit of foam adhesive behind it. You can add glue if you want to. You don't want to add dimension. You can certainly just add little droplets of glue, and that will keep it in place. Then I don't want to add much more because I already have a lot of interest. So I just went into the Happy Blooms cardstock stickers, pulled a few stickers, and then I needed something that was going to help me with that movement. So then I went into my stash, and every time I create any project, whatever's left over I keep. So I have some of the small butterflies that have been really foiled, and then I use the solid plate to get the negative piece. So I'm just going to add a few of them just to help me create that movement, kind of follow that S of flowers that I have. And that's about it. I love how this turned out. This was super fun to put together. It took some time because I had to create so many flowers, but now I have extras for a project in the future. As always, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me. You can leave me a comment here and I'll make sure to read it. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's always great content being added. And like I said, make sure you check all the, all the Pinkfresh Studio collections and also the new stamps, dies, and stencil sets. Thank you so much for joining me.